Hello everyone. This is an aggressive Golgari deck that uses Death Touch creatures to get past opposing blockers while the ninjas come in and finish the job. The main draw when I was building this deck were the three best ninjas outside of blue: Biting Palm Ninja, Nashi Moon Sage's Scion, and Spring-Leaf Avenger. Biting Palm Ninja works well because it exiles the card we choose from the opponent's hand, and in the late game tends to keep its menace counter around, since there's nothing left to make them discard, and that can help us keep applying some damage to the opponent. Nashi is kind of like the exile/draw effects in red, in that it gives us cards in the moment, but just remember that we can only use one of those cards, just speaking from my own experience. Spring-Leaf Ninja is at the top of our curve and is useful for two reasons. First is that we get to bring back our best permanents from the graveyard to our hand, like a Nighthawk Scavenger, for instance, or bringing back Nashi again, or Toski. And the second reason is, just look at the stats on this thing. 6 damage for 4 mana is a pretty good deal. This deck does have a little bit of trouble with disposable blockers, like from a Wedding Invitation or a Stensia Uprising, for example, where the opponent doesn't mind trading with one of our lowly Death Touch creatures. So it might be worth Meat Hook Massacre or Crippling Fear in here to remove some of those small nuisances while preserving our board presence and keeping up the attack. Let's break the rest of the deck down. So quickly, a word about the equipment that's scattered in here. I wanted a way to keep our early Death Touchers relevant. So you'll notice Eyetwitch, Tajuru Blightblade, and the Kappa Tech-Wrecker and Fynn the Fangbearer are not the most fearsome creatures when it comes to attacking power. So I wanted a way to keep them relevant later on, and just sort of test out some of these equipment that I don't get to use as much. So first off, we've got Vorpal Sword, Eater of Virtue, and the Mask of Griselbrand. Anyway, starting out on the low end of the curve, let's talk about removal. We've got 2 Bloodchief's Thirst and 2 Infernal Grasp in here as kind of our lone sources of removal. Now, we have a lot of Death Touch creatures, and we want to be doing a lot of attacking. So I wanted some ways to kind of get rid of troublesome things, but not too much in that we start swinging over into control deck territory. Next up, we've got our early plays in Eyetwitch and Tajuru Blightblade. These are things that are either tough to block or the opponent really doesn't want to choose to block them, and are ways to start enabling our ninjas as early as turn 2. So we do have a couple of copies of Kappa Tech-Wrecker in here, but then the real fun with the rest of our ninjas comes into play on turn 3. Going over into the 2-drop slot, we've got a couple of Blade of the Oni. So it's got Menace on it already, which helps enable our ninjas, but then it also serves a double purpose of making some of these just terrible turn 1 plays into meaningful threats later on. We can take a late drawn Tajuru Blightblade and turn it into a 5/5 demon with help from the blade. Next up, we got 3 copies of Tainted Adversary. It's got Death Touch, so that means the opponent doesn't want to block it too often, and it can be a good mana sink later on to give us some extra zombies and try to finish our opponent off that way. Next up into the 3-drop slot, we've got 4 copies of Biting Palm Ninja. It's probably the one that comes down the most often and is just the best to slam immediately as soon as you can. We get to take a look at the opponent's hand and exile one of the key cards from it. Next up, 2 copies of Nashi, Moon Sage's Scion. Again, this is a great way to get a little bit of card advantage. 3 copies of Nighthawk Scavenger helps us stay in the game against some faster decks because the lifelink is often super important. 3 copies of Agadeem's Awakening because we have lots of lower cost creatures in here. And then up in the 4-drop slot, you'll see we have 1 copy of Ebondeath, Dracolich, and Toski, Bearer of Secrets. And finally, the Spring-Leaf Avenger. Nice hard-hitting 6/5 that returns a card from our graveyard to our hand. And looking at the mana base, probably want to throw in a few Hives of the Eye Tyrant, Lair of the Hydra, and maybe 1 or 2 of the Field of Ruin as well. Now, before we get to the games, I just want to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.
strong, for they pursue. I will cull the weak. And I, the generous one. My will cannot be denied. That is insufferable. Do what I demand.
Should be a nice break from rap. That was an easy job. Feel the energy of battle, then silence. I am almost sad to see you go.
Change of plans to keep things fresh.
Only time will tell.
You're ready to You are not much of a roadblock.